it took some work for me as a lyricist, you know, to write. And I started off doing English because that was my first language, and then falling into what I fell into, which was Tejano music.
Yeah.
And everybody that I met there, I mean, they were writing lyrics in Spanish, you know, which to me at the time there was a huge difference lyrically between Tejano music and what I considered to be like Mexico, like the Luis Miguels and the you know,
the romance stuff.
Yeah, those lyrics were, I don't know, they were words that I didn't really hear all the time. Like,
well, you know, back in the Tejano days, they would a lot of artists would cover songs from Luis.
Yeah, but I mean, like, in my experience though, like the big difference for me when I figured it out, and it was like a big aha moment, the light bulb went off, was like, you know, playing in with Selena and Los Dinos for all that time, and also being a fan of theirs before I was in the band, and having heard their music when Pete Astudillo joined and did that first record with them, and he wrote a lot of the lyrics. I noticed immediately, like, there's a change here, there's a shift. And Pete, since then, having become one of the, you know, in my opinion, one of the best lyricists, you know, in the Tejano field and beyond now. But
a lot of people don't realize he didn't just write, he wrote songs for like Maz.
Yeah, and when I heard his songs, I was like, that's really cool, because the way I heard Tejano music before that, a lot of the words were kind of the same. And
redundant.
Yeah, you know, and I guess in an effort to make them rhyme.
That was their formula.
Words would end. Yeah. And then when I heard Pete's style, I was really impressed.
Yeah.
To the point of where, like, I give up, man. There's no way I'll ever, unless you go drop me off in Mexico for a year or something, and I have to deal in that language 24/7.
That's interesting that Pete has that talent, right, bro?
Dude, Pete is amazing.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
And then after Selena passed away, you know, he wrote como like Extraño and a lot of those deep songs, bro.
Yeah. Well, he that song I know was written. He had lost his mom recently, not too much time before Selena passed away. He lost his mom, and I remember that we were there. Selena and I were at home, and it was an early morning phone call that we received, and it was the news from Pete, and we were just both.
Do you think Selena would have recorded that song if you know?
I think so. I think so. Yeah,
I think she would have sang the hell out of it, bro. It would have been great.
Well, anything, man, you put in front of her, she was gonna kill. I mean, perfect example was, you know, we were already married by this time, and I had started working on a project for her dad, who was just beginning to manage other artists, and AB was beginning to produce other bands. And
Q Productions, right?
It was eventually going to end up being that, but at the time, they were just starting to want to work with different people. I mean, and kind of spread their wings, I guess. But Abraham had called me about this rock band that he wanted me to hear, and he showed me the music, and he basically was like, so yeah, I'd like for you to work with them. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I wouldn't have chosen to work with them, but okay. I mean, you know, it'll be getting my toe in the water of doing something outside of my the only other bands that I had ever worked with were bands that I was in. You know what I mean? So I felt a certain connection to that already, as opposed to hearing somebody else's band and being like, okay, what am I going to do with well, how can I make them better?
And they were putting you in there as in a leadership role with them?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, and I would have access to like the studio that we were starting to put together, Q Productions and Abraham's Connections and whatever else. But
wow, I bet it was an exciting time, right, man?
It was. There was
so many things just popping in and out, and just, you know, so many possibilities.
Yeah, and so at the time, I mean, we were all like, things were really starting to take off with Selena, and we didn't know how big it was gonna get, how much further we were gonna go, and whatnot. But so I started working with these guys, and she was home, and I put this story in my book, but she had been home all day, right, while I was working with the singer, and it was a song that I had written, and she heard me working with him all day long, man, trying to get it right, and I back then I had a problem with telling people, you know what I mean, what I thought they should do, or do it more this way or whatever.
And you know what? A lot of musicians have that problem, man.
Yeah.
They don't like to be up front. They don't like any type of confrontation.
We don't want to hurt your feelings.
You don't want to hurt your feelings, and you don't want to get your feelings hurt, you know. And that runs a lot within musicians, because it's an artist thing, I guess, you know, right?
Yeah, well, let me tell you, I'm not that way anymore. But back then, dude, it was a whole other, you know, a whole other thing that I was getting into. But she had heard us doing this song over and over and over again, to the point to where it was getting late, and I just said, you know what, man, let's pick up on this tomorrow, you know. And Abraham calls, and hey, how did it go? Because he was right next door. I'm imagining him looking out his window, like waiting to see when that car was gonna leave from the singer, right? As soon as it was
with
gone,
a glass against the wall.
As soon as the car was gone, he called, and you know, he was like, how did it go? And I was like, it's coming along. So after our phone conversation, Selena comes into the room, and she's like, hey, can I sing that song? And dude,
man,
yeah, I said, no, whatever. And she's like, no, I'm serious, I want to sing it. You know, can I sing it? And I said, really, are you serious? She's like, yeah. So I had the Shure 57 just hooked up to do demo work, and I handed it to her, and I had my back to her because I had to turn around and control the machines, right? And the room wasn't very big, and she was behind me, and we tracked it. And when she was done with it, man, I was like, beyond anything I had even thought of. You know what I mean? And it was released. We did it on a record. Abraham released it. I forgot the name of the record. It's a compilation, because it was put out after she had passed away. But it's on there. It's called Puede Ser.
Puede ser que también las noches para ella nunca acaban, y que siguen buscando mis brazos en lo oscuro.